So my remit was to talk about, I looked at the documents, I looked at democratic inequality, and to talk a wee bit about what we might learn from the experience of popular education in Latin America. When I first came across this a lot in maybe the late 80s, I found it galvanising. It was I felt we didn't have democracy in the UK. It was you vote when it was the Thatcher era, you vote once every 5 years. It felt as if it was getting Ken Livingstone famously said, if voting ever changed anything, they'd abolish it. And I didn't agree with that entirely. But there was certainly an aspect to that you felt about it. And then I went to Latin America and I saw people were bypassing. They had no faith in any formal process and they were doing their own thing, and it was galvanising. And that's what really grabbed my attention, what was happening outside conventional politics, but was still very political. And what was particularly interesting to me as an educator was this whole new movement that was grown up alongside it, called popular education. Popular in Spanish or Portuguese means of the people. And if you translated it, the translation into English doesn't get what it is. There's class-based connotations with popular. Famously, somebody in Mexico said to me one night, what way are you going home? You going through that area? I'll be careful, because that's a barrio popular. And if you translated that as a popular area, it was the exact opposite of what it was. What it meant was it was a poor area, and there was a lot of problems in it, and there's a real chance you may get jumped. That's the kind of thing. So popular education is an education committed to the people, which is a very vague, all-encompassing term for the oppressed, the marginalised, the poor, the peasants, poor workers, that kind of thing. So, if we can do that. Just going through 2 introductory slides, and then I was going to address very briefly the things that I was asked to address. So, popular education in Latin America, it's a set of principles, or a set of theories, if you like, about how to go about education. It's a practice because it's got concrete ideas on how to engage in this type of education. And it's a movement. It's actually a social movement in its own right. There's organizations all over Latin America which bring together various smaller organizations and smaller movements working in it. So it's a movement in itself. And it's really the educational dimension of the struggle for change. Right? So it's quite often it can be quite hard. You can't just go off the plane somewhere in Latin America and show me where popular education's happening. It's attached somehow or another to action for change. And sometimes all you might see is the action. But to the extent that popular education is going on, is to the extent to which it's a conscious and deliberate engagement with the educational aspects of it. So, some of the principles, there's quite a lot, but one is that it's politically committed education. It basically says the world is not fair, it's unjust, education isn't helping change that. We have to have an education politically committed in favour of the oppressed, etc. Whatever term you use is problematic, I think. The oppressed, the poor, the marginalised, whatever. But so it's a politically committed education. Very different to much of what you get here, because if you like, very often professional educators here are encouraged to be non-political. You're not professional if you're being political. Popular education movement would say that's impossible. If you're non-political, you're effectively conservative because you're accepting things the way they are. So that's the kind of starting point. And a lot of friary gets misinterpreted because that principle gets ignored. Friaries, I know a lot of people like friary, but everybody likes friary. Why is that? Because you'll find something that you'll like that won't disturb what you already do. But he was very clear, if it's not politically committed, then it's not the thing here. Dialogue of knowledge is very, very important to these principles, that everybody has important knowledge. It's not just the experts or the educated people and the ignorant people. You could come up with hundreds of examples for that. One very obvious one is that the world is littered with very expensive mega development projects that have been useless because the people who were supposedly going to help in the first place were never involved in the design of it. You can talk about massive dams in India flooding people out that were supposedly going to help. One of my favourite illustrations of that was when I used to work for Oxfam, actually. And Oxfam has been quite progressive at the time and had a consultation in a village in West Africa trying to help people, saying, what can we do to help? And what was coming back strongly was build a well, because every day the women are spending 4 hours a day going to get water, and it's back-breaking water and it's terrible, and that would save that. So the well was dug, £2,000, the well was dug. Within 24 hours it had been sabotaged. It was full of stones and rocks and everything. And people couldn't understand that. They got it cleared, got it going again. It turned out the women sabotaged it, because the culture of the village was so male-dominated But the 4 hours the women had together every day to get water was crucial to them. Right? From their perspective, all it was that by digging the well, they would lose that chance to get solidarity and help each other, and they would be ended up doing something else in the 4 hours. So the moral of the story isn't don't dig wells. Well, I say, in any kind of change, any kind of development, everybody's knowledge is important. Technical knowledge is also important. There was briefly a reaction against academic, technical, conventional wisdom or knowledge in Latin America, saying, well, it's never done us any good, so we shouldn't listen to it. That would equally be wrong. They kind of came back from that. But it's a dialogue of knowledge. Education, popular education, is politically committed in favour of those who are losing out, and it involves a dialogue of knowledge, bringing everybody's knowledge together and seeing what's the best thing forward. You want people to be subjects of change. A grammar analogy, you've got the subject, the verb, and the object. The subject is the person that does the action. And you want ordinary people, as many as possible, to be the subjects of change, not the objects. Like the other one, Greg Palast, the English-American journalist, particularly when he analysed George W. Bush's first campaign, talked about the best democracy money can buy, right, and about who's actually making the decisions. The report that we were all reading as well was quite good and things like that. But you want ordinary people to be subjects of change, not objects, and that includes not being objects of revolutionary leaders or radical leaders. It's not about some charismatic, revolutionary catalyst for change comes along and says, right, these people are all doing the wrong thing, just follow me and we'll do something. That's not what we want. We want ordinary people to engage as much as possible. That can be quite hard at times for activists to get their heads around it. Sometimes I think campaigners, I've met a lot of good campaigners. A link it to action, actually, popular education promotes action. And when I worked in Oxfam, I worked in an education department, but we also had a campaigning department. And you would have thought they would have worked very well together, but there was a lot of tension. Because a lot of campaigners, they knew what is the change you want, what's the objective, how do you get it? And if it meant bribing an official and you got it, that was good campaigning. If it meant a revolution, that was good, whatever it took. But they were masters at getting change. And but there was different kind of campaigning, popular campaigning as well, where you're trying to get everybody engaged in it. But action is linked to this kind of education, but it's very important, I think, to democratise campaigning skills. Sometimes campaigning, the culture of campaigning is very macho. How many column inches did you get last week in the press because you used a good publicity stunt, that kind of thing. So, but getting these techniques and awareness of how to campaign effectively, I think, is an important part of popular education and helping people do things. And famously, it's got a very participatory educational methodology. Which again is great because it allows you to have a dialogue of knowledge, and if you don't have the tools to promote that, how do you do it? But at the same time, it's quite often people think, it's just about participation, it's about sitting in a circle and having a dialogue, and that's you doing popular education. It's not. It goes back to that as well. So there's some of the principles. It's about promoting equality and participatory democracy. Very hard things to pin down, I think, as well. It's not easy, a lot of problems. And it goes from, you'll see this from small projects, from just people working in a wee community, a particular project, to social movements, and I would call them in Latin America particularly popular social movements with that class connotation behind it, because you've got a green movement that's maybe not grassroots in terms of class-based analysis, but I would differentiate between kind of generic social movement and what in Latin America we call a popular social movement. I'll talk about one or two in a wee minute. And also to engaging with the state. So when I first got interested in this, it was all at micro level. It was about groups getting organised and doing things, and it was very exciting. And with time, that's changed a bit, because in those days in Latin America, people felt they couldn't change anything. Right, John? And the only way to change something was to take action into your own hands. Paulo Freire had written Pedagogy of the Oppressed, was published in about 1970. His ideas were quite radical, but what really galvanised them was the growth of popular movements in Latin America in the 70s and the 80s. It took Freire's ideas and radicalised them. Freire said that himself. He said, I wasn't that radical to start with. These movements took the ideas and radicalised them. Lots of different examples from, illustrating those. I was in Haiti in the late 80s at the end of a dictatorship, and I was in a remote rural village 2 hours away from the nearest roads, where there had been lots of repression. And I met Oxfam at the time. I was working with Oxfam at the time. Oxfam at that time any Latin American project that wanted to have a popular education dimension to it. And I had a meeting actually with all the Latin American staff. That's where I got right into it for a week in Mexico about getting what was this popular education all about. But in Haiti, I met these popular educators and asked them what changes it had brought about, and then they talked about all the different things. And one of the changes that they really put their finger on, now I'm deliberately going here to a very oppressive context, was the local, this is the time, I don't think people ever heard read Graham Greene's book, The Comedians, and heard of the Tong Tong Macoutes. They were the kind of police with sunglasses on. They were still going about Haiti at the time, and they'd stopped us once. And I nearly died of a heart attack because just at the sight of them, their reputation was so horrendous. And they caused all sorts of oppression. But this group, this community, this group in this particular community talked about how they could change things. The local magistrate was a despot. He caused all sorts of problems, and they decided they were going to run him out of town. They weren't going to kill him, they were going to run him out of town, and they were going to set up all sorts of lookout stages to watch for the army coming back in to repress them. And they had an evacuation strategy to keep evacuating the village. And they did that, and it sorted itself out, and eventually, as the dictatorship won, they sorted it all out, and they elected their own magistrate, and they took me round and introduced me to the magistrate. It was like a political campaign with babies and everything. But what was clear was that even in a context of real oppression, it was able to do something, which made fantastic change of quality of life to these people. Brazil, lots to look at in Brazil from dictatorship times to the moment. One of the most important popular social movements in the world, I would say, is the landless people's movement in Brazil. And they have taken popular education very much explicitly on as part of everything they do. They train their own teachers. When they occupy, there's a big story, but they occupy land. The landowners say they invade it. So there's a big education about, do they invade or do they occupy? And they occupy land that isn't being used. A land, they will tell you, which is not fulfilling its social function. And legally, the government can take off landowners and redistribute it if it's not fulfilling a social function. They do their research, they occupy the land, and then they elect a teacher. And the teacher will go, a school teacher, will go to the landless people's movement's own teacher training program. I went to see it, and it's dynamite. It's all about living cooperatively. It's very experiential. They're thrown into a room together and told to sort certain things out, and they're left for 24 hours, and then the kind of teacher training coordinating group will come and discuss it all with them. And it's hard, it's not easy, living cooperatively necessarily. There's lots of things to learn on it. So, but then you think, how does that relate to here? I work in a place that does teacher training. I think, how does that teacher training program relate to something here? At the very least, I think it makes you think creatively. But it's so interesting that lots of people in Brazil want to go to it. And also the relationship between, it comes up later on, how do you engage the contradictions and things like that. The landless people's movement make a virtue of the fact the state should be providing that, not us. We're never going to be able to run an education system. The state should be doing it, and they make claims of the state, and they've been very successful in some states within the national geographical land, which is Brazil. And other people go to the teacher training course as well. So some normal, in inverted commas, school teachers have done the training with the landless people's movement. I should mention Brazil, there's a massive social movement, popular social movement in Brazil called the Zapatistas. And they're different. They have nothing to do with the state. They say the state here is just absolutely corrupt. We're not going to engage with it. And they've got their own revolutionary, they've got autonomous areas, and they produce their own different education approach. Different ways of looking at it, the landless people stay engaged. So there's different examples there. Nicaragua, the revolution in 1979, same year Mrs. Thatcher got brought into power. A massive, that was one of the, President Reagan was, causing all sorts of problem in there because it was the great big threat to freedom as we know it. It's a population of 3 million people at the time, the size of Strathclyde region. Half the people were under 15, and the people that were being targeted from the borders were teachers, health workers, that kind of thing. But the government had six liberation theology priests in it at the beginning. It tried to put popular education on a mass scale. It's a great case study to see when a government is progressive and it's trying to do something, clearly was trying to do something, but the contradictions, the difficulties, the successes, the lack of success at times is a very good case study. Venezuela is also interesting. You know, it must be one of the few places where the president is much more, or was until Hugo Chavez died, was the problem with the middle layer. The president was trying to galvanize grassroots change, arguably, but it was kind of more career officials that were blocking it. And there was all sorts of things going on there in Venezuela. Again, an interesting case study, but again, very difficult to really know what's going on. No two I was in Venezuela for a fortnight, researching popular education. No two Venezuelans have got the same take on what's going on, right? And what some people see as participatory democracy from the grassroots down, somebody else sees as total participation from the top down. And it's hard to tell. The landless people's movement in Brazil, one case study where there was money going around from the government, but you had to listen to what the agronomers had to say. So I remember reading about an outside official watched the landless people being lectured to by an agronomist. The landless people are brilliant, by the way. They learn assertiveness training. They've never been so looked at in the eyes. I've been at public events where landless people just got up in front of hundreds of people and, you know, very humbly take their hats off and articulately, if anything, address top politicians before they go back and sleep in bin bags, because they maybe living in bin bags for 2 years to get the thing. But I've kind of lost my track of what was I saying about there. I started with something else and get sidetracked. Chavez. I started with Chavez. Yeah, I started. That's the point I was looking for. The landless people and the agronomists actually. So it looked to an outsider that what Friday called banking education was going on. These humble peasants were listening to what the government official said. What was actually going on is they were playing a game. They were doing the ropes, listening to them politely, giving them a cup of tea, getting the money off them, going away and doing what they were going to do in the first place. So it's not all, what you see is not always what you get. And it's difficult at times. I wouldn't want to over-romanticize it, although I was really taken by this at the beginning. It's hard. There's no guaranteed successes. I think of Haiti. What would have happened if somebody in the early days of that, you know, when they were looking out for the tom-tom, what if somebody had fallen asleep? One tiny wee variable and they might have been massacred. So there's no guarantees of success as far as I can see, and it's not always easy, and you've got to work at it. It's what you see, always what you get, the point I've just made. And the context is different, but I think it stimulates thinking. There's a lot more radical examples in Latin America, I think. And that gets you thinking, how can we do it here? You know, when there's not necessarily what you would consider an equivalent popular movement. But things change all the time. Next one as well. Right, so, the only contradictions of the CLD server, very quick, I must be near the end of my time here. As with any state-funded activity, CLD servers decline whatever developer engagement. The state, for me, is a site of struggle. I had to change my views on this. At the beginning, I was seeing Latin America as being outside the state, wasting your time in the state, do your own thing from the grassroots up. You're unencumbered by all the bureaucracy and all the language that's used and all the co-option and all that kind of thing, do your own thing. Then, when dictatorships moved away, when Reagan stopped bombarding Nicaragua as openly, when there was what they called democratic openings, including in Brazil as well, although some people, where they used to talk about low-intensity conflict, they now talk about low-intensity democracy. However, there were wee gaps coming up. And what I was seeing was some people working with the popular movement were then moving into conventional politics. And I found that quite disappointing and losing the radical edge at first. And it moved in different ways and in different places. I'm only giving a general thing. However, I've moved in that because the state is a site of struggle. You've got to take advantage of any opportunities that are there. And that's the way it is. Even working in education here, I think of that as well. It's a site of struggle. There's a lot of ups and downs. Sometimes you think you can do quite a lot, and then sometimes something changes and it's quite hard. So over the long period there are ups and downs. But personally, I think the thing in that is to push the barriers and don't have what Augusto Boal, I'm sure you've heard of the Brazilian kind of Freire's equivalent in drama, called a cop in the head. Don't have a policeman. I did a full training day in Dundee for community workers once. And towards the end of it, they said, Liam, that was really interesting. We really liked that. Very radical. But we couldn't do that here. We'd get sacked if we did some of that stuff. And then there was one manager in amongst there. And he said, well, said, in all the time I've worked as a manager in community learning and development, nobody has ever nearly pushed me into a situation where that even been on the table to think about. Said it's not, there's a lot more room. So the thing is, don't have a cop in the head, push the barriers as much as you can. At times it might be harder, at times it might be easier. You know, there's no answer to it. One thing I've come to firm on, because I said my opinion's moved over time on it, because I think it's very easy to be co-opted by the state, it's very easy to be seduced by the state, and quite often some of the language that comes out can be quite enticing. And there is no doubt there are people in various different, that's very interesting what I've just heard there, for example. I'm thinking that's something to take advantage of. There, in local government, in national government, all over the place, there will be instances, there will be areas. I've looked at some of Brazil's stuff at national level, and I thought if I had been asked to design this, I certainly couldn't come up with anything better over some particular thing. So there's lots of good stuff happening at various levels of government as well. Obviously, there's a wider context that limits that. But Friday's pal, Moacir Gadotti, talked about the thing about social movements he said you want them 1 foot in the state and 1 foot out the state. And I liked that image. And I took it a wee bit further and I thought about the hokey pokey. You put your left foot in, your left foot out, your left foot in and you shake it all about. So the idea for me is the way is to have, it's about, you want the people, the movements, if you can get them to be the agents of change, they've got to have a foot in amongst the state and shake it all about, just like the hokey pokey. They'll make the difference in that. Okay, I think we're nearly there. Developing practice with marginalised groups so that inclusivity is encouraged. I think there are lots of popular education materials, I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. I think they're all very useful tools for this. I'll give some links later on if people haven't come across them. But on their own, they're not popular education. You can do participatory stuff and it can be manipulative. You can do lecture stuff and it can be democratic. It's not black and white, I don't think. There's a lot more to that. And then finally, what is your understanding of democratic engagement? Well, I think the principles, methods and examples of popular education practice in Latin America do that. There's so much going on in so many different contexts in it. It's not always obvious what you do. There's a big term they use in Latin America quite a lot. Popular educators talk about doing what they call a conjunctural analysis. One of the ironies about popular education is some of the language they use is terrible. And I initially thought that was something the matter with your eyes. You know, it was confusing it with conjunctivitis. But it's basically analysing the political moment, as another way it's been translated into English. What is going on? Where are the opportunities to make a change? Where is there a strength in the popular? Where are we analysing it from a popular movement point perspective? Where are the cracks in the system that we can exploit? Where is there strength in the grassroots movement that we can bolster? That kind of thing. And just finally, I have a website in popular education in Latin America. At the moment, I've not been doing too much work on popular education. It's a bit slightly, it's not as up to date as I would like it to be, but there's plenty of stuff there on examples of it in Latin America, bibliographies, tool books, that kind of thing, that maybe some of it will be useful to you. Okay, thank you very much.